Hello. Well, I'm going to be talking about a subject about somebody that lived in Victoria, a mother. But due to legal reasons, I'm not going to actually put any names to it. If people wish to guess and realise where that I'm talking about, that's very cool of them. But I just say that in the first week of April, a mother and a stepfather will be returning to a town in Victoria. And they'll be living there permanently, and the reasons for this is because this mother and stepfather, and the mother definitely needs to return to this town in Victoria, is because she's got to be around her children. And there's more than one child, but she's got to be around her children. I don't believe that any father has the right to say, if you're going to get rid of the man, don't expect to have your children for much longer because I will take them off you. I don't think that's quite a good thing. But in the first week, a mother and a stepfather were returning in the first week of April to a country town in Victoria. These are the concerns of a mother and a stepfather. Names are being removed so the police cannot judge or somewhat be corrupt. We know that the Victoria government at the moment, the new Victorian government at the moment, is one of a police state. Be careful of how you deal with a police state. Now, I'm going to read this, but the names are going to be taken out of it. So in the first week, a mother and a stepfather will return to a town. When they return to the town, they're going to expect this to happen. They're going to expect a lot of slander and a lot of corruption and probably false imprisonment, false arrest and false allegations. But we'll see what happens from there. Mother and stepfather will instruct a lawyer to take a lawsuit of slander and defamation and damages suit which has taken in place between 2008 and 2011 historically, because historically that the mother was with another man, and when she was with that other man there was domestic violence right throughout their de facto relationship of 10 years. We're going to be seeking damages, and and my wife wants to be focusing on the husband's good reputation and family name. So we're going to be seeking damages, which we've been stopped. My husband's being stopped being a person in the community and a productive person because what's taken place is a family court order, and it says this is slander, there is no evidence for this to be said, and being found guilty with no evidence, no jury, no trial, no proof. This is stopping my mother and stepfather and damaging stepfather and mother and causing damage to her children. And the good reputation, good name, the Department of Human Services and the Federal Magistrates Court, Federal Judge Magistrate Connolly, in this a reputation, a good name, and department leading into this and slandering my husband's name, and affects me as my mother, as the children's mother. I wish for this foray to remove from this order unless you show why it should be show the evidence to stop the slander and damaging my husband. As it says, at such times may be agreed between the mother and father to provide such times take place in this country town area to take place in the absence of the stepfather and known as the stepfather's name such and such. How can a federal court judge, Federal Magistrates Connolly, slander a man's name without any jury, without any trial, without any evidence, and say someone's a pedophile and a sex offender without any evidence? I don't believe that to be true. Also, how the Victorian government is failing to recognise this couple as a married couple. The husband and stepfather will instruct the lawyer to take a lawsuit of slander, defamation and damage suit. Number 2, failing to provide evidence to the state that the stepfather is not suitable around the children. Failing to provide the evidence to state that the stepfather is not suitable around children, and encouraging false information for a federal court order to allow it to be used to inhibit the mother's rights and to encourage a false information without proper procedures to be followed. Judge Richard Pitthouse, which has been to several courts in Victoria, so it could be anywhere, refuses the mother's evidence and bullies the mother and uses her evidence to twist it and falsely use it to somehow secure a conviction, and continues to bully, and there is no proper legal representation for the mother or stepfather, and use the court, Judge Pithouse using the court as a kangaroo court. I asked for a full investigation into the corruption and the way they're stitching up my husband, and using this tool as a favour for the so-called XXX father to stop, which is a father of the stepfather's mother, the stepfather's wife had a de facto with this person in seeing her children. The tool for the police to not to follow legislation but to frame up and to not be ethical and not listen and allow this Judge Pithouse to be corrupt and bully the mother and stepfather. There are some articles that you can follow up. Family Anguish, its Magistrate Richard Pithouse bullying rules. Then it goes on to another one, through the Herald Sun. The victim brutal assault was horrific when the wrong way the Magistrate Richard Pithouse refused to consider her evidence and ignored the injuries and let her attacker off without a conviction instead of ordering the woman to pay the RSPCA $250. So there are things on the net. Failing not to allow proper procedures, policy to follow whether the mother, stepfather is suitable for the children to live. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to bully the middle daughter to go back to her father, which actually has committed, when that is proven, allegedly committed an assault against his daughter. When that is committed, I don't know, and I don't know the situation, but that's an alleged assault at this present moment. So the Department of Human Services in Victoria has failed to recognise the mother, has failed to recognise the stepfather, and basically agrees that this is acceptable. For instance, the Department of Human Services allowed for approximately 18 months for a father and children to live in a one-bedroom house. So that was entailed in a one-bedroom house of 5 people. Allowing favour and corruption to take up within Victorian police in a Victorian town, not following procedures and not provide enough evidence to proceed with any action, but taking action on hearsay and no evidence for victimisation and harassment of the mother and stepfather, and to break the Charter of Human Rights in Victoria. False information brought to the court, and information brought to the court without enough evidence. Without enough evidence. How do you bring someone to court without enough evidence? That the father and the stepfather and the mother, the stepfather and mother, has no avenue to defend themselves in court. Wrongfully, the court decision and the court corruption with Judge Richard Pithouse from this country town court acting corruptly with the Victorian police to bring false information without proper investigation and no procedurals followed for the stepfather and the mother at this time has not been in Victoria for the last 2 years. How can a Judge Pithouse come across and say, we need a restraining order because we're the Victorian police and we want to stitch up the stepfather and we represent the father, and we can lie to Judge Pithouse and that the mother and stepfather hasn't been in this country town or in Victoria for 2 years. It seems to me that there is some corruption and a bit fishy going on here. So what I'm saying here is with Judge Richard Pithouse of Horsham, I'm going to leave it here and go to part 2 in 2 secs. Thank you. This is John Neville reporting the facts as a lobbyist. John Neville.